life, and we're using which we can thrust ourselves into the next phase of human evolution much faster than we've done in the past, as Dr. Ranjan mentioned. So before I get into the details, I'd like a very quick poll, mostly to test how many of you are actually listening to me. Let's have a quick poll, let's lift our hands, and how many of you actually think that technology dictates, absolutely dictates, social outcomes or societal outcomes? All right. How many of you actually think that technology is largely dictated by societal necessities and outcomes? Great. All right. So congratulations, you've all just participated in a century-long debate on whether social constructivism is important or whether technological determinism is what thrusts us forward in the wheel of evolution. So social constructivists believe that technology is just merely response to social needs and necessities, and it's partially true. Technology, if you didn't want to drive a cab, then you would perhaps not have a company called Uber making millions out of that societal need. Technological determinists believe that technology is absolute and that it dictates societal outcomes. It's the first thing that appears on the scene and dictates how societies will move forward. And if you look at the history of mankind, it's quite evident. If you had the military technology of gunpowder and horses, you could completely defeat a society that had only foot soldiers and knew nothing about gunpowder, right? So I'm bringing these two, the ideas of social constructivism and technological determinism, to impress upon you that the wheel of evolution always moves by the reciprocal regulation of these two entities in our life. And we are today at the cusp of a human evolution where these two entities might actually be further accelerated by technology, and that's why the future is really here. So let's briefly review what culture is. Do you believe that science is a culture? Great. Then the cultural paradigm often involves certain processes. Well, if you're a scientist, you should believe in peer review. You should believe in the process processes and methodologies that you've already inherited. Science has rituals and routines like this very conference where we want to huddle up and discuss, what's hot and what's not. And we have control systems. We have agencies like TIFAC which are saying, this ought to be done, and this is a roadmap, and this is the vision, and that's going to be what's going to be enforced here on. We have organizational structures. We have schools, colleges, universities. If you're a student, you're in perhaps the most liberating part of that ecosystem, and if you're Dr. Anil Kakorkar here, then you're on top of that chain and dictating what the vision and the future looks like. So science is also a social construction of knowledge. It is a human endeavor and has a very strong social component to it. And in the past, like Sir Isaac Newton said, we do stand on the shoulders of giants. So all cultures of science and technology are socially constructed. And the baseline human intelligence is shaped by your surrounding cultural knowledge systems, be it the culture of science, be it the culture of technology, or if it's a culture of geography, like if you're an Indian, then you have your own Indian knowledge systems that inform you and inform your scientific enterprises as well. So the more complex, if we know one thing by looking at the past, the more complex the context gets, the more complex and convoluted the culture gets, the human cognitive component that responds to that gets more and more evolved. And why is this important? So our life, or this trajectory of evolution, is always guided by certain binaries. The binaries of the reciprocal relationships between individual and society, between cognition and culture, and between the binaries of brain and context. So each time something moves on this side, there's a corresponding change in the social component or in the human component that responds to this wheel of change. And we are today standing here and talking about technology. Technology today and especially exponential technologies are impacting all parts of these binaries. It's impacting how an individual, it's empowering individuals very differently, it's impacting society, it's impacting how we envision the brain. So is brain the seat of the mind, or is mind thinking about the mind as the brain is that reductionist? So technology is in many ways questioning and empowering different parts of these binaries today, and that's why we are in this very exciting cusp of human condition where we are able to choose. The only difference between the past and the present is that today, because technology is our baby, it is a man-made entity, we're able to choose which way we want to guide this wheel. In the past, we did not have this much of a control over the context that predicts outcomes, either in society, culture, cognition, or the brain. So just to give you a blast of the past, a long time ago, a human was confronted with the problem of having to communicate to larger groups. When we went from monkeys to humans, we became larger groups. We had to communicate more and more complicated information rather than do, no do, imitate, no, get out or get in. And we had to have more, we had to use metaphors in language, and we had to use larger complexity to communicate. And the last time we had such a challenge, the brain responded. And the social brain theory says that evolution of human intelligence is directly linked to the social challenge of having to communicate with larger groups. It was not survival, it was not the need to survive in a complex environment that actually pushed the cog of cognition and evolution, but it was this social impetus, it was this social cause that pushed it towards who we are today. So as you can see, the Homo sapiens, both in terms of cranial capacity, human brain complexity, increased as a consequence of this contextual need, or the need which was dictated by the sociology of human beings. So what we understand today, if we are to organize ourselves and think of ourselves and indulge in the metacognitive thinking that is very human as to who we are, we think that we are a gestalt of several intelligences, with Howard Gardner at Harvard organized as the theory of multiple intelligences. So if you look at all the laundry list of intelligences that are attributed to human agency, then you will see that musicality, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, linguistic skills, a lot of this have a social component. And of course you have the visual spatial skills, the bodily kinesthetic skills, logical skills, and mathematical skills, which could be fairly intrinsic in nature. So in the field of cognitive sciences, we're also moving from thinking that human intelligence, human agency is all inbuilt, to a point where we are actually able to include the context. So the proponents of embodied cognition or situated cognition believe that, number one, brain is not the seat of the mind, and that intelligence and human agency is embodied, which means that you have to have a body, you have to have a physicality to experience yourself as a self. And secondly, perception and action is coupled. And so rather, human intelligence is not just something that cooks within you if you wall yourself off into a vacuum chamber. If one were to take you out of this conference today and put yourself in a vacuum chamber, you will not evolve naturally as a more intelligent person just out of the box. You really have to be out of the box to actually get out of the box. So proponents of embodied cognition believe that it's also a form of enactivism. They believe that it's an active way where they believe that knowledge is constructed. It is constructed by an agent, or a human agency, through its sensory-motor interactions with its environment, and it's also co-constructed between and within living species through their meaningful interaction with each other. So in its most abstract form, knowledge is co-constructed between human individuals in social-linguistic interactions. And so, coming back to what Dr. Ashutosh Sharma and Dr. Prabhat Ranjan so beautifully illustrated through through their talks. We are in that junction where technology embodied systems, not embedded systems, technology embodied systems with the combined power of artificial intelligence systems can coalesce the binaries of social cognition. So in the past, you were only as intelligent as your context. And now we have technology changing that. And in the past, we were only limited by the functionalities of a human mind, your functionalities of your working memory. George Miller in 1950s found out that your working memory is limited to magical number 7 plus or minus 2. So you can only hold 7 or plus or minus 2 objects in your working memory at the same time at one instant, or chunks of information which could be organized as 7 plus or minus 2. So there are limits to human cognition, and now technology is giving us an opportunity to change that part of the problem as well. So we are in this beautiful moment where technology embodied systems can actually get us out of our intrinsic human cognitive limitations, and through the power of social cognitive systems which are linked to artificial intelligence systems, we can now harness the intelligentsia of a whole community all at once. And so definitely we are moving towards more intelligent human beings. I will not get into the 6 Ds of exponential technology, but I'd just like to say that we are empowering person-centric realities in the current, and we are at that convergent moment where everything is converging into person-centric realities. So such a future has to be bolstered by regrouping ourselves and thinking about what makes us human. Are we just computational species? What is human agency? Or is it, just the fact that you have or you don't have a cognition or a consciousness, is that enough to define ourselves as humans? And National Economic Forum did a study where they predicted that the 21st century skills would largely depend on humanistic qualities such as curiosity, initiative, tenacity, your ability to perceive information and knowledge, because information is not synonymous with knowledge. And your adaptability to changing environments and